Hi everyone, Melia here with a few strategies and tips for crafting weapons in the Final Fantasy XV Comrades MMO. One quick note, this video is an introduction to how to craft. It is not a guide to min-maxing a particular weapon, and I don't always use the most efficient methods. So, why is crafting important? Because in Comrades, your weapons make up your character stats. Experience and levels don't matter. Good gear does. In the end, Comrades is really a game of putting stuff on your weapons so you can get better stuff to put on your weapons. For those who prefer the short version of how to craft, crafting is really only 4 steps. Step 1, check if the weapon can level into a better weapon. Step 2, use materials to meet any weapon requirements. Step 3, add any material you want. And step 4, use crafting buffs, meteorites, and overflow to make SID level weapons. A problem I see a lot is new players asking for a good weapon build and receiving recipes that have endgame or rare materials that are hard for new players to get. But having decent early or mid-game gear will make the game far less frustrating, so don't be afraid to look in your pockets and use the materials you have. So, for my crafting example, I'm going to use the basic katana you can purchase from the merchant in Lestalem.
You want weapons? We got lots of them.
And I'm only going to use materials you can get in the first few missions, from mission levels 1 to 10.
Hey, come again.
I'll post the finished recipe at the end of the video in case you want to try making it yourself, so don't worry too much about keeping track of the materials that I'm using. When I open the crafting table and select the katana, I get a list of the materials I've gathered to the left, and a list of material properties and weapon properties. How do you choose good materials? Well, different materials will give you different stats or abilities. And they take up a certain amount of space on your weapon, which is the XP number here. Think of your weapon like a bucket that can only hold so much stuff. The trick is fitting as much into that bucket as you can. So for example, if I look at the sturdy jaw, it gives me +3 strength, but takes up 740 XP. That's the space. But if I look at great garula tusks, they give me the same +3 strength and +2 spirit for only 540 XP, which makes the great garula tusks the better material to use because it takes up less space and my character gets more stats. What are the best materials for you? Figuring that out will depend on your playstyle, whether you prefer melee or magic, glass cannon or balanced, which abilities you want, which sigil you use, and how much time you are willing to spend grinding. If you would be interested in a video of good materials for different builds, let me know in the comments below. First off, you can tell if a weapon will level into a better weapon by looking to see if it has a level bar in the upper left-hand corner. If so, you need to meet any weapon requirements before you run out of room, or the weapon will not level. In this case, I can see the katana has a strength requirement, and I can tell because of the little bar under the strength stat. I should probably go over the stats really quickly. The flexed arm is strength, the closed fist is vitality or defense, the wand is magic, and the snowflake is spirit or magic defense. These down here are your resistance to elements and bullets. So to make this katana level, I need to find a material that gives good strength. To start, I'm going to use 4 regular garula tusks, which you can easily get by breaking the garula faces in the first level 1 mission. Notice the garula tusks have an ability, Bone Crusher, which will transfer onto your weapon if the weapon has an open slot, which the katana does. By open, I mean it doesn't have a padlock like this one, and it isn't a locked skill that is specific to the weapon that can't be replaced.
That ain't half bad. Got her all tuned up for you.
Next, I'm going to add 6 great garula tusks, which you can get from the boss in that level 1 Garalusa Gone Wild mission. This window pops up asking if I want to keep Bone Crusher or change to Undaunted. I recommend selecting Undaunted because it will give you an advantage against large creatures and let you more easily break those faces.
I've seen worse. find anything good out there?
In early game, I recommend focusing on strength and defense. If you get just 4 of the Great Garula Tusks and 4 of the regular Garula Tusks on this katana, you can start farming the level 10 Urgent Calamitous Carlibos. The alligator-like Sahajin will drop rough scales and hard scales. It's a long, ugly fight, but it is doable. Before jumping over to Calamitous Carlibos, I do recommend running a Tangled Web They Weave, the level 2 hunt with the spiders. It will add a little experience to your character and get the Arachne Sickle Claw we'll need later. So for this katana, I'm going to add 1 rough scale to boost defense.
Not too shabby. Got her all tuned up for you.
And then 2 hard scales to boost both strength and defense.
I've seen worse. You find anything good out there?
Okay, you can see adding the 2 hard scales completely filled the strength requirement bar, but the weapon did not level because the level bar still is not filled. So this is the extra space we can use to add whatever stat you want, strength, magic, resistances, whatever. I tend to lean towards balance builds instead of glass cannons because I like staying up after things hit me. So I'm going to keep adding hard scales to give me both strength and defense until the level bar is full. 6 of them. Now the weapon requirements have been met, the level bar is full, and the katana should
Would you look at that? She's a real beaut.
level into a new weapon. Now we have a Warblade.
Got her all tuned up for you.
So you can see the level bar is now partially filled and the weapon will go up to level 45 instead of 30. We have new weapon requirements for both Vitality and Spirit, and the padlock changed into a locked skill that we can't replace, Charge Strike. Because we used so many Vitality materials during the katana form of this weapon, the Vitality requirement has almost already been met. So now I am going to put on 1 Arachne Sickle Claw to gain the ability Poison Touch. For this material, I am more interested in the ability than the stats, which is why I'm not putting more, just the 1. If you're lucky enough to come across a cactuar in early game and get needles, do put 1 needle on your main weapon. It takes up very little space and will give you the skill Penetrator, which cuts through enemy defenses and lets you do more damage.
Not too shabby. You find anything good out
And
there?
after the Arachne Sickle Claw, I'm going to pour on more of the same materials we used before. 6 Great Garula Tusks for strength. Be careful to keep Poison Touch.
That ain't half bad. Got her all tuned up for you.
And 8 hard scales to boost strength and defense. Alright, the weapon requirements have been met. That level bar is full. And
Well, blow me down. You been practicing on that thing? Well, I ain't looking.
now we have a Tadayoshi.
You find anything good out there?
Notice the weapon will now go up to level 60, but there is no level bar. This means the weapon will not level again, but we can use all that free space to increase any stat we want. Now, I'm going to use 6 more hard scales to bring up both strength and defense. Be careful to keep Poison Touch.
That ain't half bad. You find anything good
And
out there?
defense still looks a little low to me, so I'm going to use 2 rough scales.
all tuned up
Finally,
for you.
I'm going to use 5 giant crab pinchers, which might drop from the boss in Calamitous Carlibos while you're farming for the rough scales and hard scales. This seems to be a rare drop, so if you have trouble getting the pinchers, you can always use whatever other decent materials you have. Be careful to keep Poison Touch.
That ain't half bad. You find anything good out there?
And look at that! We went from a katana with 0 strength, 0 defense, and nothing else to a Poison Touch Tadayoshi with 125 strength and 60 defense. Math and I don't get along, but if you were to make 4 of these, your character would have roughly 500 strength and 240 defense. That will easily carry you through the beginning part of the game. But what if I make a mistake? Well, don't worry about making mistakes. Once you advance the story to a mission at Cape Cayam, you will get the ability to dismantle weapons and rebuild them. Kane's Lance is the only weapon you don't want to dismantle, it ruins it, so do be careful with that one. You might even use one of your crafting disasters as a place to put junk materials to help boost your stats, then replace it with a better weapon later.
So long.
I have a few more tips for pushing your weapons up to SID-approved levels, but that's basically it for the how-to of crafting. If you want to head to the crafting table here, please give me a like if you found this video useful, and for those sticking around who want to take your crafting to the next level, I have 3 advanced crafting tips. Advanced tip 1, there are crafting buffs available in the game. To show you the difference the crafting buff makes, I made the exact same weapon using the 30% SID crafting buff. There are other videos and resources that talk about how to get the SID crafting buffs, so I won't cover that here. But note that when I use the buff, I use the same number and type of materials, but end up with a much better weapon. Another benefit of the SID buff is it allows you to meet those weapon requirements with less materials, leaving more of that free space for the materials that give you the stats you want. Is the buff nice? Yes. Is it necessary? Not until you're working on your endgame weapons, but do take advantage if you get a random SID buff at the end of a mission and have enough materials to craft. Advanced tip 2, Meteorites. Meteorites let you bump up the level of any weapon to 120. You get meteorites by dismantling other weapons. Sometimes even a weapon that doesn't evolve into a better weapon can be useful if it has a nice ability and you just want to pop that cap up to 120 and load it up with magic or strength. I prefer to use the Sumoji Katana as my dismantle stick. It isn't the most efficient, but there are no requirements, and you just load it up to level 50 and dismantle to get 1 meteorite and whatever other materials and gemstones. This can be a good way to get shards for building up your resistances. When you dismantle, you don't get the same materials back that you put in. However, you can load up a weapon with junk materials and dismantle to get useful items. I'm going to use the remaining space on the Tadayoshi and pour on chrome bits, which are +2 strength and +2 vitality, just like hard scales. Chrome bits are slightly more expensive space-wise at 520 XP, but you can buy them from a merchant, so that means much less farming. Advanced tip 3, Overflow. So remember how some materials take up a lot of space?
You find anything good out there?
If you craft your weapon all the way up to 1 before the level cap, so 59 of 60 or 119 of 120, you can still add a material into that last sliver of space, no matter how large the material is. I recommend finishing weapons with the gemstone of your choice to get a +30 boost for 1 XP. I can cap off this weapon with a strength gemstone to get 283 strength, or a vitality gemstone to get 218 defense. Overflow won't work twice. You can't overflow at 59, use meteorites, and overflow again at 119. Once you raise that weapon level, that last material you used at level 59 will expand to its full size and take up some of that new space. In this case, I'm going to use the strength gemstone.
That ain't half bad.
Look at this, we ended up with a Poisontouch Tadayoshi with a strength of 283 and a defense of 188. And we
So
really
long.
only used materials you do have access to in early game. If you don't have access to the chrome bits, you could always farm for hard scales. Good crafting means lots of grinding, so find other players if you can. It can be hard to find folks in quick play, but there are other options, including the subreddit Final Fantasy XV official Discord. I'll put the link below if you're looking for live players. It is possible to solo comrades, but there are bonuses and multipliers that make it worth it to play with others. Plus, you'll have a lot more fun. Another great resource you can find on the Discord is SodaSip's Weapon Builder Windows app, which will allow you to build weapons in a spreadsheet to see if they will work before wasting valuable materials in-game. Be sure to read the README file so you know how to use the sheet, but if you're like me and hate math, or if you're looking to min-max weapons, this sheet is your new best friend. As I promised, here is the recipe for the early game Poisontouch Tadayoshi I crafted in this video, in case you would like to make the weapon for yourself. As you head to the crafting table, keep in mind there are a lot of weapons and builds that may not be the best, but are just fun. So experiment, build crazy things. Break Omega's legs with a squeaky hammer. Discover Fists of Light. Spin to win! Happy hunting all. Maybe I'll see you in another video, or somewhere in Eos, defending the light. I'm off to defend Lestalem from Monica. Bye!